Ladies and gentlemen, thieves and crooks, hoodlums of all ages, welcome to the comic Outlaw. Yes, this is my show, and let me tell you now that all property is owned by the respective writers, companies, and the good people that put this out. This is just for entertainment, y'all. My point of view, my flip side on some of these wonderful issues. So let's start this off with a what if issue. Dun dun dun. What if Venom had possessed the Punisher? Ooh, this just gives me goosebumps thinking about this. Ooh, I wanted to do this since I first started this show, and I'm so happy I get to do this now. As a kid, this is one of my favorite comic books. I love the What If series. Props to the watcher. You want to. R.I.P. Now, this one actually starts off almost the same as the Eddie Brock story, but the man praying is the man known as Frank Castle. See, Spider-Man had inherited the symbiote during the Secret Wars, and he found out that eventually this black costume was an alien. He removed it on the church using the bells because the alien's weakness is, of course, sonic sounds and fire. So once removed, it kind of hit Frank Castle. And Frank, unlike Eddie, is a different personality altogether, where Venom and Eddie kind of was more savage and had that hatred towards Spider-Man. Punisher didn't have that hatred for Spider-Man that Eddie Brock did. But let's get into it, shall we? I love this costume. I mean, it is so cool. I love the way it looks. I love the skull in the middle. It's just so choice. Oh man, why can't Punisher? Oh, why can't this series? I would buy this series if it came out. But as we're starting it out, Punisher does, what he does. Except now he has a symbiote and he's starting to discover the power. I love how he just pops up the claws and whoosh, that guy's dead. And I love about the Punisher is that he just doesn't care. Broad daylight, middle of a crowd, coming out of court, he will end you. And now with the symbiont powers, he has the ability to. I find this interesting that he uses the web and he thinks that it's just too light. And he does something with the symbiont that I never really saw at any other time. Just for this issue, that he turned the symbiote into a gun. It was able to fire projectiles, which is cool because if you read Maximum Carnage, Carnage was able to do that with a lot of different blades. It's interesting how Frank Castle figures out quickly how to weaponize the symbiote. And of course, Frank Castle goes on a killing spree. Bam, 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 bam. Knocking down anyone and everyone in his path. And of course, he's becoming more savage, more dark, more twisted. He likes it. And of course, at this time, Spider-Man's wearing a black costume, but it's all cloth. I believe it was given to him by Black Cat at this point, although I'm not sure. But it's interesting how these guys are referred to as the street level heroes. There's Daredevil right there sensing something is off. And I love how this kind of keeps into a street level hero bit. Now, this scene actually happens in Spider-Man 2, where Spider-Man falls asleep, Peter Parker, and the symbiote takes control. I believe it was in Web of Spider-Man. And I love how there's dual personalities, and it's almost a fight for dominance, because the symbiote has a very, very dominant personality at this point. It changes over time, of course, as does the Punisher. And I love how the suit takes Frank's body for a little ride, and of course goes after Spider-Man because of course the symbiote has its own agenda, and that's to get revenge on the person that hurted it the most, the person that it loved. Because yes, the symbiote did love Parker. That's where all this hatred comes, because it's a thin line. Now the fight does go on, a rumble tumble. Now Spider-Man realizes, as good as he is, he cannot match Frank Castle as the symbiote. I mean, he just doesn't have the strength. His spider sense is null and void with the symbiote, and Frank Castle is just twice as deadly, even in semi-conscious form. The symbiote and Castle is a deadly, deadly combination. And the symbiote can also draw on Frank's experiences, Frank's soul tactician. You know, it's interesting the bond between symbiont and host, how it kind of goes both ways. Very fascinating. I'd like to do a video on that sometime. But as you can see, Frank, the symbiont, they have him at his mercy, Venom, and he's about to kill him, but no. Frank's mind steps in, his willpower, because the mission is all that matters to Frank. And Spider-Man is not part of the mission. Oh, he's a pain in Punisher's rear, but he's not a killer. So Spider-Man goes where else would he go to get help? He goes to the Fantastic Four Tower. And there it is, the members of the Fantastic Four kicking it. Now, this is interesting because there's Ben Grimm, Human Torch, and another Ben Grimm. Well, not another Ben Grimm, but just a weird Fantastic Four creature. And here we have Frank Castle, of course, talking with Micro, one of his allies. And he's telling him he's losing control, but Frank wants the power. It seems to be the only thing the symbiote and him agree on, that they sort of like the situation. They're just trying to see who can fight for dominance. And Frank, of course, is going and doing what he does. But the symbiote at this point is taking control. The symbiote has override Frank's personality for a bit, but is still doing Frank's mission. Murdering every gangster that it comes across. And to Frank's mind, and also the symbionts, this is justice. Lethal justice. I mean, if you read Eddie Brock's Lethal Protector, you'll get the same idea, you know. So it seems to be the symbiote's underlying aggression is always there. Now, this is Typhoid Mary. She's not mentioned too much in the comics, but of course, Venom, Punisher, goes after her. Daredevil steps in, or at least tries to step in. But what can you do against a soldier that has the symbiont? And I love how he just gets the Kingpin and that's pretty much it for him. Boom, problem solved. But was that justice? In Murdoch's mind, no. That's not justice. Justice would be Kingpin behind bars, not him dead. But Castle does not care. And he continues on his mission to kill, kill, kill. To satisfy that need that him and the symbiont both have. That savage instinct. To be that lethal protector. To go through the streets and take revenge. But, of course, like I said, the other street-level superheroes, Spider-Man, of course, Daredevil, and Moon Knight, a character that doesn't seem to get enough credit, multiple personalities, he's fighter, interesting character. I suggest, picking up an issue and reading about him. I love Daredevil, Spider-Man. I love how they keep it street-level heroes. But Punisher isn't taking any of it and jumps at them. But you got to keep in mind that the symbiont is warping Frank's mind at this point. The symbiont is trying to take over by satisfying Frank's needs and kind of just easing its way into the main personality. And Frank is fighting it. Like I said, it's interesting, the fight for dominance in this issue between Frank and the symbiont. But of course, Spider-Man pulls out his ace in the hole, his little blaster that he got from the FF, because, Spider-Man always needs that help, and he doesn't have the finance to really put something together like that on the fly. He's just a poor boy that works in the newsroom at this point. And that's what makes Spider-Man so relatable. A lot of these street heroes relatable. They have real problems. But of course the blast goes off. Frank stands there. He shoots the weapon. And they're asking him, to stop, to give it up. And Spider-Man, of course, tries any and everything to try to get the symbiont removed from Frank. Because they think that Frank's just a danger to everyone around them. But it doesn't work. And Frank goes into the recess of his mind to have a conversation with this symbiont. To let it know that the mission is the only thing that matters. The mission is what he cares for. The mission is what makes him who he is. And the symbiont must follow the parameters of the mission. Otherwise there will be no bond. And like I said, I find that so interesting, the conflict both inside and out with the symbiont. And I think that they were sort of made for each other because they have a lot of the things in common. And I love how the bond, when the bond hits, it hits, and they become one being. Like I said, I love the conflict here. I love how Frank tells the symbiont flat out and forward, I am a soldier. This is my mission. This is who I am. If you want to be bonded with me, this is the way it will be. We will kill, but we will kill who I say and when I say so. Frank, in a way, has recruited the symbiont to his war. And now that he has his new recruit, mind, body, and soul as one, Frank takes off. And I love how he could just fly, how he just shoots stuff. I love the way he uses the symbiont. And I love the way the savagery kind of makes sense. But Frank takes off, spreads his wings and jumps off the building and flies off into the darkness to bring his form of justice to New York City and to make sure that the streets are protected by a lethal protector, the man that stalks the night, the man with the symbiont on, Frank Castle, Venom, aka the Punisher. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was my take on it. This is the Comic Outlaw. Catch you on the flip side. Yeah.